Returning at long last to the world of Toril and the familiar stomping grounds of the continent of Faerun, let's get back to some good old-fashioned monster ecology, shall we? Around the shallow and warm ocean coastlines of the lands of Zakara, the rich, cooler ocean waters of the trackless sea around the fabled Moonshae Isles, and very rarely near the rocky and often storm-racked Sword Coast of the land of Faerun. Even once or twice in living memory, as far inland as the somewhat murky grey harbour of Baldur's Gate, there lurks a very dangerous kind of fish called the Afanc, also known as the Gawar Samarkat in the land of Fate. The saying, "there is always a bigger fish," is very fitting for these creatures, as they are among some of the most formidable natural relics of the ancient Blue Age of the world of Toril, when ocean life dominated everything. While there are larger sea monsters, the Afanc is pretty much just a very large bony fish that is based on the real-world prehistoric species called the Leedzichthys, which lived during the early Jurassic period from around 165 million years ago. Among the largest ray-finned fish that ever existed, these massive creatures have a large and bony head with some lumpy and hard projections. They have large elongated pectoral fins and a tall vertical tail fin. The gill arches are lined by gill rakers, which form a unique system of delicate bone plates, baskets that filtered plankton from the sea water, giving them the ability to consume just about any protein the sea has to offer and contributing to their massive growth. But it is their ravenous appetite and taste for larger prey, combined with their massive size and more than a bit of fishy cunning, that makes them so dangerous. At an average around 50 feet long, an adult Afanc is kind of a drab grey-blue colour with some faint strap patterns on the younger ones, which make it harder to see them when they are younger fish from above. But the adults are so big they are hard to miss as they swim just under the surface while cruising around, engulfing tons of plankton. When they spot larger prey, they put on some real speed and close in to swallow their prey whole. In the case of a small vessel like a canoe or single-mast boat, they'll just slam into it and use their mass and strength to flip it over or smash straight through, snapping up anything that looks edible that spills out. With larger ships, they have a much more spectacular tactic. First, the Afanc will swim very close and brush by the side of the ship, as the fish is smart enough to measure the size of the ship compared to itself. Anything larger than the fish and it will move off, leaving it be. But if the ship is of the same length or smaller, the Afanc will move about 100 feet away from the ship and start to circle it at an ever-increasing speed. At first, it won't seem obvious to the uninformed what the monster fish is doing, aside from avoiding some close-range shots from ship's crew firing whatever they have at the thing. A prepared crew with something serious like a ballista on board will lay into the fish with as lethal a broadside as they can muster before it starts to close back in, circling ever closer. The swimming creates a whirlpool of size and power sufficient to suck down a ship of up to 60 feet in length. So that is basically any caravel with a crew of 5, which form the bulk of light coastal trade vessels. Any ship that is built for ship-to-ship combat will usually be too big and usually too well armed for an Afanc to mess with. And these fish are smart enough to know it. In total, it takes about 8 minutes for the Afanc closing to 40 feet from the rapidly spinning ship for the whirlpool to hit full force and drag everything on the surface down. Once capsized or sunk, the Afanc will attempt to swallow any victim up to large and general size whole, while it will attack others with its flippers or its bite. The stomach acid in an Afanc stomach will kill a human within 6 minutes. They will be completely digested within 2 hours. Afanc are not very intelligent, but they're smart enough to be pretty spooky, certainly smarter than any shark. They are not on some automatic routine. They pick their timing, they react to different situations, and they remember previous events and adjust their behavior. They adapt. So by the time they've grown over many years into the titanic fish as large as a fully grown whale shark, they are not very easy to kill, and they've learned how to spook an inexperienced crew into firing off all their ammo at it, while it's still just under the surface enough for most shots to bounce off its thick scales harmlessly. As for their reproductive cycle, very little is known other than the fact that they are rare, so either they don't reproduce very often or the younger Afancs tend to stay well away from more dangerous prey like humanoids and sailing ships. While they are a saltwater dwelling fish, female Afancs will enter the mouths of large rivers in order to lay their eggs. These are laid in large quantities, as the defenseless objects are considered a delicacy among many creatures, including humans, particularly in Saqqara. Upon hatching, Afanc called fry, will stick together for safety and can be found in quite large numbers. They will remain in rivers for some time, only leaving it for the sea upon reaching a general size of about 15 feet long. By this age, they are still schooling together, although their numbers have dropped significantly. It's common to see anywhere between 3 to 18 such Afanc still swimming together. At this small size, at least 6 of them are required to create themselves a whirlpool anywhere near as large as that and powerful as that of an adult. A male Afanc matures faster than a female, reaching about 30 feet and its breeding size by the age of 30. A female will be 50 before hitting that same size, but she will live for a couple of centuries and produces more and more eggs the older and larger she gets. So where did Gary Gygax get inspiration for this creature, found in the pages of the early Monster Manual 2 for Advanced Dungeons & Dragons? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's a bit of Welsh folklore, completely ignored apart from the name and the fact it's a water-related monster. So let's have a look. In Welsh folklore, Arthur had Bedivere throw his sword Excalibur into Glaslyn, which means Blue Lake in Welsh, a small lake in northwest Wales. Glaslyn was also the final resting place of a water monster known as the Afanc, also the Welsh word for beaver, which had plagued the people of the Conwy Valley. By the way, if I get any of these Welsh pronunciations wrong, I blame Wales and just the way that you spell things. You know what you did. They tempted the monster out of the water with a young girl as bait and then secured it with a bunch of stout chains. There are a heap of different versions of this myth, all based on earlier tales, and who knows what the origin was. Perhaps there were some beavers in the lake once. The Romans did bring some hippos and put them into the River Thames once, which is just a terrible idea. It's lucky the warm weather didn't last and the animals died out. Anyway, a common theme in the myths is that Afanc is most powerful when in the water, but can be weakened and killed if dragged out of the water. So Gary took a name of a mythological cryptid and paired it with the body of an ancient extinct fish, gave it the power to sink ships over 40 feet long by creating a whirlpool, and had it so that it could breathe both water and air. Essentially, it's one of the sea monsters you see on old world maps, out in the middle of nowhere on the vast and unforgiving oceans of your fantasy worlds. In use, they are a perfect way to get rid of a sailing ship you don't really want your players to have yet in your games, or ensure they take an extended visit to some remote coastal or island location where they can get another sailing ship and escape back to their voyage of discovery. And of course, the idea of having a monster from the deep rip your ship to bits and swallow your character whole is pretty damn scary. As for more creative uses, they would make fantastic war beasts employed by the Tritons, Sahuagin, merfolk, or other aquatic intelligent races. With just one of these beasts, they could create a living blockade of any harbour, or hunt and take out some local pirates who have pissed off some local sea druids. Any big creature known to swallow people whole can contain a powerful magical item, or patrol a shipwreck graveyard lair with the artifact located in some sturdy treasure chest among the ruined remains of quite a few ships, the undead and restless spirits of drowned sailors also haunting the area. It may just be a giant ship-destroying deathfish, but there's no reason an encounter with an Afanc can't be scary as being stalked by a massive shark. My name is AJ Pickett. I make videos about monsters and fantasy lore. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll be back with more for you very soon.